Hey friends, my name is Allison Steele, and you're listening to Unravel with Allison. Unravel with Allison is a show where I take a concept that's got me in knots and we unravel it together. Thanks for being here. Hey friends, today we are talking about roots. I took a class on speech and communications. It was rough. I adored my instructor, but mostly I appreciated his patience with me. I was not built for public speaking, and I had to really train that muscle. But at the very, very beginning of the semester, we were given an assignment regarding communications. And it was a question like, how do you identify your message and how do you share and communicate it? So I sent it as an email as he requested so he could review it and then we would all discuss it in our first class session. But the night that I wrote it and sent it, I was sick. Like, very sick. NyQuil was in my system, working its magic as I was writing it out. And my response was basically this heartfelt fever dream. Like, I remember body aches and fatigue, but my heart just reveling in what my message was and how beautiful the world would be if we could all try it. So the question again, how do you identify your message and how do you share and communicate it? Here's what I sent. If prompted to root for the good guy, it's fair to assume there's a bad guy. By our dualistic nature, one may suggest that rooting for the good guy is the same as uprooting the bad guy. This is not the message. It's possible that a good guy may be equated with the nice guys who often finish last, which makes this prompt significantly less appetizing. This is not the message. A baseball fan may root for the home team, hear this prompt, and assume we cheer for our favorites. This is not the message. The message is a simple prompt. Root for the good guy. Root as a verb holds two meanings. One meaning is to establish deeply and firmly. The other, cause a plant or cutting to grow roots. The good guys are within your surroundings. It is my suggestion that we actively seek out the good guys within ourselves and our shared environment. Through this act, I realized that I was often the good guy and the bad guy. I didn't appreciate what the bad guy had to offer. I liked the good guy and I wanted to spend more time with that version of myself. As I did, I began seeing the good guys in strangers on the street, clerks in the stores, friends and family that I never knew previously existed. We are most often impressed by the world's hidden dangers. It is important to remember that there are also vast amounts of hidden delights. Deeply and firmly establish the good around you, and it will cause more roots to grow. If we continually root for the good guys, we watch our world blossom. So I sent the email and attended class the next day, feeling a little bit better, but still a little foggy. When we started to discuss our responses, he said he was impressed with everybody, had great feedback. Then he turned to me and he said, I don't understand what you wrote. It was poetic, but it didn't answer the question. So when we went to review them, I asked if we could start with someone else so I could have a reference point. Because I was pretty comfortable with how I answered the question. My message is to root for the good guys. I identify it by initiating it and seeking it. And, well, it's a practice, so we practice it together. And that's how we communicate and share it. It seemed like everybody else answered the question, how do you get your point across? With specific examples of like interpersonal communication. They all completely understood the assignment. And this is why college bums me out sometimes. I always did well in school. I always cared about being the good student, but this time I cared about learning. And it's been difficult for me to turn in stuff like this when I have the capacity to complete the assignment in the appropriate way. I respect my instructor so much, but I still feel this pull between like, this is not how I do it. And I know this works for you. And I know I'm supposed to do it this way, but when I feel it in my heart a certain way, it's how I want to do it. And it is a little bit of a battle sometimes, but it's like how I get my point across. I'll tell you exactly what it isn't 3 times so you can identify with me. Not my point, but me. And by the time you identify with me, you start to feel it. You can feel what I mean. You can feel it too because we're dialing in together and clearing out anything that might get in the way of understanding before I even allow you to consider my point. And that works here. It doesn't work so well in conversations or in assignments. Last week, Siegel and I recorded a podcast immediately after the announcement to the student body that our school would be closing next semester. Everything that we had been rooting for was like sideways for the next week. And the night before our meeting, I pulled 3 cards from all of my tarot and oracle decks, and I decided like each pull was a different meaning. The first card was past, the second card was present, and the third card was forward. And I painted myself a beautiful picture of potential. So the first card that I pulled was from my pixie deck, and it was the tree, neutral energy, surrounding health, growth, and life. In regards to the image origins, the tree itself is from the 4 of Cups, which brings in stable water energy. The 7 sunflowers in the background symbolize the 7 chakras of the body. The 22 leaves falling, which symbolize the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, help us in understanding our need for a healthy, energetic connection to the world around us. The pool of water is from Temperance, to help bring balance to the inner and outer realms. The second card I pulled was card number 12, the birds. Again, neutral energy. And this card is all about communication, conversation, and siblings. This is first and foremost a card about conversations with other people. Think about how birds get together and chatter and how that happens in our lives. When this card comes up, be prepared for a lot of phone calls, verbal or electronic communications, and long conversations. There are 2 birds in the image, and the background is built off of the Strength card, which lends enduring energy for all of those long conversations that will be happening. My past is the tree with health, growth, and life. My present is my communication with my soul sibling, my bird, Seagull. And my forward card is card number 22, the crossroads. This brings positive energy surrounding decisions, alternatives, and navigations. There are decisions to be made. New opportunities are opening up, and you must choose which way to go. The image origins, the Fool and the Moon meet in this card. The path of the bottom of the Moon card merges into the mountains of the Fool. I'm not going to go through all the decks and all the cards that I pulled. Those were just the very first 3 that I pulled, and I was thinking about my conversation that I would be having the next day with Seagull when I pulled them. This was a beautiful picture of potential. That felt okay. Like my past growth and my present moment and my forward, those are all very comfortable. Those are all so comfortable. And then Seagull and I sit down, record our episode. I go to edit it, and it's not until I'm editing the image for the episode that I realize it's episode number 22. And there was 22 in the past card and 22 in the forward card. Oh, in numerology, 22 is a master number. It's the number of the visionary, the architect, the master builder, the powerful communicator, and the unifier. And I call myself a synthesist, and that I can create with what we have. I can bring form based on our understanding. I am a creator, but I am a synthesist, specifically because it insists on other to bring together as one. There has to be an outside piece, a synthetic piece, a piece that isn't me for this to come about. And Seagull is a director. He is a visionary. Like, we already know we're going to be okay, but this feels reinforced. My best ideas for this show are born in turmoil. When I'm uncomfortable, when I'm unsettled, when I'm in knots and all tangled up, what then? I imagine myself talking to you after I've overcome it. I imagine myself at a crossroads when I'm sitting here looking like, what do I do next? What is the coolest way I can tell this story? I spend some time with myself, and then I emerge with a fresh mind. I didn't have an answer to how to move forward once I heard that the school was shutting down. And even after they gave us our options of how to move forward, I didn't know what to choose. And it wasn't time for me to decide. So what I did over the weekend was hang out with my kids. I ran videography for the Juneteenth event downtown, and I started a new project at home. I've spent more time with the trees this week, looking at how they grow, what they're doing, how they develop. And when I think of a tree, when I just think of a tree, I think of how I would draw one, like a trunk in the grass with branches and leaves filling up the top. I forget the complexities of the bark and the way that the leaves will curl up just before it rains. And when I was leaning against the tree the other day, I looked down and saw the roots that emerged from the bottom. And that felt poetic. But I thought about it. Why? Why does that happen? And I sat with it for a few days and thought about what that felt like, how that could happen, what would make that happen. Ultimately, I Googled it. I'm going to share the answers with you, but also relate them to me and what I was feeling over these definitions alongside these definitions. So why do those roots come up? Why are there roots in the grass? Why are there surface roots when roots are supposed to be underground? One reason is for aging. As a tree ages, the roots thicken and enlarge, and some of the older, shallower roots can break the surface. This to me is personal growth. The more you expand, the more you are going to disturb and change your surroundings. That can feel and sound scary, and it's important that we call it growth because all it is something different happening, something new to experience. Aging is beautiful. Another reason why is the soil quality. When the environment's poorly drained, compacted, or in a clay-based soil, it can encourage shallower root growth. And that's because there's nothing to hang on to. Everything is everywhere. So with us as people, we need to clean it up. We need to maintain our space. Personal growth and maintenance can cause the roots to surface. Another reason is erosion. Rain and wind can erode the soil around the roots, making them more visible and susceptible to damage. And this is just our environment as well. My school can shut down. My environment's eroding. Does this have to be bad? Does it have to be scary? And finally, the species. Some trees, like silver maples, willows, and lindens, are naturally more shallow-rooted than others. I call this one individuality because I don't want to call it species or DNA or saying you are who you are and that's how you are. Part of that is true, but there is far more room for growth than there are in your genetic setbacks. Your individuality can also cause surface roots. But these are just causes, complexities, noticings. What does it mean? We're just like them, and they are just like us. I feel like my entire time at the school has been underground, just out of character for me to want to even go to school, let alone go to school for something that puts me face to face with my fears, which I'll say I didn't realize that so much going in that I would be like on a mic doing radio shows. I thought I would be learning about these different things and like being the behind the scenes person. I didn't know that any personality or talent was expected to be presented, but I've been exploring my growth and making space for my individuality. And it has felt so unlike everything that I've been. I've been the tree for so long, I forgot I could be a root. And I've spent this time being a root, and it feels a little rude also. It's rude to really root yourself into something so deeply and passionately because there are less time for friends, there are less time for family. I am doing work on myself here, and it does seem selfish, and it does seem like if I have time to make a podcast, why don't I have time to make a phone call? And let me just say that those are two very different energetic expressions. Those are two very different exchanges. One has me funnel out while the other has me funnel in. And I felt like this amorphous blob that's like trying to fit between those spaces. But that's where I'm at now, is at the surface. I've been digging down and working hard to establish myself. And in doing that, my insecurities have diminished to an almost comical level where I believe anything is possible. I'm capable of anything I put my mind to with assurance that I will maintain the stability necessary to continue my growth. I put my faith in the universe that things will work out. And when they don't play out that way, I tell it to try again. When one of our cars are backed into, we don't throw a fit. We don't buy into the drama, the old stories of poor me. This always happens to me. Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. This narrative that I proudly thought I identified in my life as like a pattern, I never realized that I created it, and my constant retelling was perpetuating it. But I learned something new every day. I didn't want to take an environmental science class, but it helped me find new ways to describe things. I didn't want to take a psychology course because it's always been presented to me in a very fixed way. But my teacher is all about fluidity and openly questions what she is teaching in our discussions. Like when we present her with alternative viewpoints, she's like, wow, I've literally never thought about it that way. You guys teach me just as much as I'm teaching you. This is a very different group. And that's another part of it, is that the group and the people I'm surrounded with, we don't all have the same viewpoints. We don't all lean the same way artistically or creatively. But there's something unique and backwards and weird about the creative mind, where it doesn't make sense on purpose and it comes up when it's supposed to go down. So here I am, my roots grounded. I am at the surface, peeking my head up again and ready to reestablish this growth. I learned how to root for myself. to cheer myself on, to be the good guy, to make drastic change at my very core and express it outward. And I never thought that was something I could do. But I genuinely had never considered it a possibility in this way. The fun thing about going to college is that everything that I wasn't excited to learn about ended up being my favorite thing to learn about. These situations that I'm in that I'm uncomfortable with have become a podcast. The difficulties in my life that weighed on me for months on end, I'm excited to resolve them within a week, within a couple weeks, just quickly, so we get to talk about it. So we get to share it together. I'm excited to do better because of this. As this semester ends, I still have 2 more classes to take. We were offered a teach out from a different school who I could take my last 2 classes with their school. They would honor the degree and I would get exactly what I signed up for, and they would honor the pricing even. And I could get my degree next semester at a different school. With only 2 classes left to take, that really makes sense to opt into that. But at the same time, since my school is closing, there's a loan forgiveness opt-out bit where I can just stop pursuing. The last 2 classes that I have to take are social media 2 and career development. Social media 2 would be beneficial for me to learn and to know. Moving forward, looking at jobs, they all want social media gurus and established followings and all of this stuff. That would be beneficial for my career and for my future employer to want me to have in a degree. The other class is career development, which I'm not sure employers really care that I took that course. That is more for my navigation, for my education in this career field, not necessarily for my employer to have reassurance in the degree of what my skills and abilities are. As far as skills and abilities go, I've taken those courses and passed those courses. So the funky thing here is that with my school shutting down, I can opt out. And a way to tell this story next month is that no, I do not have a degree, but I got a free education. I think that's my favorite way to tell this story. So to move forward with that, and just typically at the end of this semester, this is part of one of my classes, is making a demo reel. I had to go through all my work. I had to re-listen to my podcasts. I had to re-listen to my features. I had to re-listen to my commercials. I had to re-listen to my newscast, my weathercasts. I listened to everything I've created, and some of it was so hard to hear. Cringy, because it wasn't good. It was poorly produced. It was such a baby. I was just learning, and it was precious. It was precious to spend a day reviewing my growth, pulling my favorite parts, which I wasn't looking forward to. I always feel like my favorites aren't other people's favorites, and I want to get other people's favorites so that my reel is good. It's so silly. It's so silly. So I just sat down and did it, and I liked it. I had fun with it. I liked what I could pull. I liked what I came up with. I liked what I had to say. I tell myself that I do this, and I tell myself exactly what I need to hear. And sometimes I do go back and listen to my own episodes so I can hear it again. So I can hear myself tell myself what I need to recenter myself, to reestablish myself. And sometimes it's just getting a sense of myself. It's not even the words, but it's hearing myself be okay. That's important too. That's why we like to look back on pictures. This is what I'm talking about when I want us to root for the good guy. Look for the growth. Look for the development. Look at what has surfaced. Look at where you've been and who you are. Spend time with it. When you see it, root for it and cheer it on and let it grow and share it. Because this fever dream assignment was my heaven on earth. And this is what I'm doing here. And sometimes it works out. Like you get a free education. So yesterday on the way home from school, my gas light turns on. The gas station that I wanted to go to that has the gas that I like. I pulled in. One of the sides had the nozzles bagged. They weren't available to use. The other side was blocked and there was a tanker pulling up, and it was just a chaotic mess where I'm like, I'm not getting into this. I do not want to do this right now. I live a couple blocks away from that gas station. So I turn away and reroute to go home. And I'm on the phone with my mom as this happens. And I'm like, I wanted to get gas, but it is just not happening. She asks, why not? I pull up to a stop sign as I'm explaining to her what just happened. I stop. and a kid goes by on his bike just as another car is pulling up from the other side. So they are crossing me as I am stopped. The kid gets by and the car stops, even though they don't have a stop sign. This isn't a four-way intersection. Just my side has the stop sign. He can go freely wherever he wants. So I just give him a nod to go on. And he pauses and then goes. He was going to let me go. He was pausing for me to go. I waited much, much longer than I needed to, but I know now is not my time to go. I'm just not getting into this like, ooh, you, me, you, us. No, we're not dancing in the intersection. I'll wait, you go. That all happened literally and in my head as I was explaining to my mom on the phone what had just happened at the gas station. And she was like, well, what does your gut tell you? And I'm like, I'm not getting gas. And she was like, well, if a tanker's pulling up, maybe gas is going to go up. Don't you think that you should get it while just do it? You're right there. And I turn into where I'm supposed to turn and still head towards home. And I start laughing and I'm like, no, I don't want to get gas today. I don't want to get gas there in that environment. And yeah, I'm not doing it. But I couldn't answer you about my gut because I was in a different gut situation with the stop signs while that was all going on. So I explained that to her and we both just give it a laugh together because it's like she can sense that I'm supposed to be going and not just based on the information that she has, based on our connection and who we are. She's like, her gut's telling her to go. And if she was at that four-way, she would have gone. And also logically, the way that she was thinking about the information I had told her about the gas and everything. And like, I get it all. But it's this funny thing of where I'm like, nope, I get it. I'm doing my own thing. And I've done this often in the past where like, I would try that, but it was trying. It wasn't believing. It was testing. Yesterday was me believing. Like, I know this is okay. This is the right thing for me to do right now. And it felt different in my body. And she listened to me and she heard me and she trusted and believed me too. Because often that would be those things where I was testing it and I would be like, dang it, I should have listened to mom. So I wake up this morning and we get ready to go. I know that I have to get gas. I remembered, had support getting the kids out the door. Everybody got ready and we go to get gas. Everything is perfect. I get my gas, drop the kids off at daycare, and I still have a little bit of time before I have to go to school. And I'm tired and I want coffee. And I've been telling myself that I'm going to cut back on caffeine. And I've been telling myself that I don't want to spend money on this stuff. And despite the logic, I'm going to Dunkin'. So I try to place the order as I'm at a red light about a block away from Dunkin', and it won't process. I'm like, okay, now's not the time. My light turns green and I go and turn in and the line's long. And I'm like, okay, pull open the app again and try to place the order while I'm in line. So again, all I have to do is pull up at the drive-thru, say, hey, it's Allison. They're like, great, pull up. I still can't connect to the server. So I get up to the speaker box and I don't hear anything. The car in front of me is at the window and they pull away and I still don't hear anything. And I'm like, logically, what are you doing? Everything is telling you not to do this thing, but I am staying in line. I'm not driving off. I'm not going away. I'm not in a time crunch. Nothing is wrong, but everything I've been telling myself is not in alignment with these actions. So yeah, when I get to order my stuff, I do feel a little silly, but I order it anyway. And I was even in the app, like switching between medium and large because I felt bad about spending money, but it was only like a little bit more to get the large, whatever. But I was like, nope, I'm getting a medium. And that's what I kept trying to order that wouldn't go through. And when I get up to the speaker box, I order a large because it's what I want. And I go up to the window and they're like, hey, our servers are down right now. This one's on us today. I got a free coffee. And this is the weird thing of like, just listen to yourself. Give yourself what you want sometimes. Don't make it so difficult because when it feels right, when you're doing the right things come your way. And it can be as silly as a free coffee or as extravagant as a free education. Take some time to consider what you're rooted in, what you're rooting for, and then stop and look how far you've come. When you're open and honest with yourself and continual with your right action, it all seems to make sense. Thanks for listening to another episode of Unravel with Allison. We've got all the social networks up and running. Feel free to reach out, follow, subscribe, keep in touch, and stay up to date on new episodes. Thank you for being here, and I will catch you next week.